If I told you how many times I started this video, oh boy. All right, we're going to make it short and sweet as I possibly can. We're going to do somewhat of an update and then series of next videos coming up. Again, even though I've got the last video you saw, was I rented a shop and I moved a bunch of cars and a handful of parts that couldn't sit outside, but they also couldn't sit in here that I could pick up by hand, if that makes any sense. I have too many engines and transmissions. I could load them in the truck and then load the cherry picker up and take them up there, but that is really just not effective. To every time I need to take an engine or move an engine or something like that, I have to load the cherry picker up, go up there, because we're talking it's 10-12 miles away and then 10-12 miles back. So everything I do is going to require heavy lifting or moving around. So I'm just going to leave the engines here. So that's why this place is such a mess. But I am going to start cleaning part of it up, because I have a few things coming. Number one, what you're looking at here is the 2000 GMC 4.8. I did a string of videos, made them, never put them out. Some things happened during that time. It was a year ago, actually a year and a half ago. It was like June, I believe it is a matter of 2020, I think it was 2020. Anyway, so there was probably no videos on it. I also, not only did I strip it, it was a two-wheel drive, I also retained the 4L60 transmission, which is actually not any good. It's got first, second, and reverse like normal on those. I will be doing a video on this, but that's not going to be for a while. So what I'm doing is, since I needed to get rid of some stuff, I have 3 6-liters, 2 5.3s, and this 4.8 in the garage, along with part of a 348, a 383 stroker, a 402 big block, most of a 350, a 412 block, and its components are around here somewhere. I'm not even sure where the crankshaft is right now. And I have like a Pinto engine and 3 or 4 transmissions. I think 4 transmissions. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is I have a lot of stuff, and then I got the 302, which is actually at the, we'll get into that in a little bit. It's at the machine shop. Anyway, so got a friend of mine I work with. He's wanting to build a 4.8. He specifically wanted a 4.8. I told him I had a couple of 5.3s if he was interested in one of them, but he wanted a 4.8. He wants the turbo one. I told him I'd make him a deal. So I sold him the 4.8, entire wiring harness with computer. That's strung out here on the floor so I could explain stuff to him, along with that one manifold comes off the one side. I've got all the accessories, intake manifold, you know, everything else is either on the engine or I have it. The only thing I don't have is a starter, which is actually on my truck, and it's not any good really, so he'll have to get a starter. What I'll probably do is put the new one. I've had a new one for 8-9 months and haven't put it on. It's in the back seat of my car. And then of course I have the box full of miscellaneous stuff that goes with it. Bolts to put the top cover back on, top cover, fuel lines that are cut, that, you know, so that he can make a connection anyway, mass airflow sensor, miscellaneous bolts, the throttle cable with the mount. I took the entire thing out so that you could do a drive-by wire, or excuse me, drive-by cable system. Of course it has the steam vents, all the bolts are in there. Okay, so with that said, that's actually, so this stuff is gone. I'm just waiting for him to get a hold of me. I sold my old welder. It's already gone. I sold this air compressor. The guy doesn't have room for it right now. So I told him I'd store it for him until he can afford it. So that's also going to be gone, which is going to leave me a little bit of room. Quarter panel for the boys' car may end up going on mine. I haven't made my decision yet. So still got some new lights could be put up, especially back here in this corners. Haven't done it. Still got dirt on the floor. Just the way it works. Can't deal with that right now. Up there on top, what you see that blue tote, set of motor mounts in the plastic bag. The box that says eBay on it is a oil pan, not the Holly, but a different one. And the computer off the Suburban, valve covers for another one. There's an LS wiring harness in a box behind it. It's a standalone wiring harness. This is in this box is a intake manifold for the 302. It's a Jegs. I think I said in one of the videos it was actually a Summit, but it was a Jegs brand. Rear axle still sitting up here. Haven't done anything with it yet, but we will. The engine, like I said, is at the machine shop. All the parts are here except for the stuff at the machine shop. Didn't want to order parts. We're going to get into that later, so I have some stuff to order. Okay, so the reason I'm actually bringing you here, though, besides an update really quick on what's going on in the garage, because it's still a disaster everywhere else, is this car. The next string of videos, and I mean there's going to be a boatload of them, is on this 65 Mustang. There's a huge story behind it. I'm really not going to get into it a lot. All I'm going to say is it's in my wife's family since '96. Her brother couldn't keep it. He wasn't going to do nothing with it. I bought it for her for her 50th birthday about 4 years ago or so. So we have possessed it kind of ever since. It's a 6-cylinder, 3-speed, non-numbers matching. The motor's a 67. The transmission is a 68. The car is a 65. The car was originally Caspian blue with white and blue interior. Is now forest metallic green with black interior. This is a base model, 13-inch 4-lug wheels front and rear. That's not what's on the front right now, but that's what the car came with. What I started doing was a whole series of videos on completely doing a mechanical restore on this car. I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to do anything like that. That's just paper on top, guys. It's not hurting to paint. And that stuff sitting on top of it is on mat that's upside down that's brand new. So it's not hurting the paint. I would not recommend ever setting anything on paint. But this was just temporary till I get it out of here. Anyway, this car was needing everything possible. The motor was no good, the transmission's no good, the clutch is no good, the rear end's no good, the springs all sag. I did a quick video, but my measurement sounded like I didn't know what, good grief, acorns falling off neighbor's tree. You know, anyway, it doesn't make any difference. The car lifts to one side at least 1 inch, both front and rear on one side and the brakes were mediocre at best, being drums, and the car was not conducive. It was no fun to drive. There's no heat, very little heat, no air conditioning, no power steering, no power brakes, no amenities at all. And the brakes were going bad. They were 20 plus years old, the old drum brakes, and the car sat for a long time. That's not good on them. Okay, so I did a lot of videos. All you saw was my backside through most of it. You couldn't even see what I was doing. I suck at camera work. I apologize for that. That's why I'm kind of talking aggravated right now, is because I'm so aggravated with myself. Well, with that said, I'm just going to quick show you what I did, and then we will do the brakes. I'll do videos on the brakes. We're going to do full video on the engine, tear down, rebuild, stuff like that. I may skip around a little bit on the engine because, again, I suck at camera work. I was yakking like I am now more than anything else. I will rebuild the rear end. It already has subframe connectors welded on it. I'll do a little video on that after it was done. I cannot set a camera on the floor, look up, and try to do a weld where you're trying to roll around on a creeper catching yourself on fire. Just not worth it. But it does have weld-on subframe connectors on it. Okay, with that said, why it's sitting on the floor is because I ordered a set of wheels. They're a minimum of 2.5 months out. So these are factory 14-inch 5-lug off of another 65 Mustang a guy gave me, but they're set up for drum. So my Willwood brakes are not on it right now. Yeah, it's got the new. I'll do a video on some of that, but right now the brakes are not on it at all. It's just sitting on these wheels because I didn't want to buy a set of 14-inch tires to put on these wheels just to roll around. You know what I mean? So, okay. With that said, I have completely replaced. I did videos. They sucked. Let's see if this thing shows up anything. Not really well. This has a complete new front end under it, new lower A-arm, upper A-arm, spring mounts, springs, shocks. I ended up replacing that shock tower deal, and that didn't fit at all. I may do a video separate on that. It also has all new bushings for the strut rods, and I have a whole new front end also for the steering components. We'll get into that later on as well. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you what we were doing here because my video sucks so bad. I didn't know what else to do besides just try to show you what I'm doing and go on from there. So let me get some stuff straightened up and I'll bring you back here in a minute. Alright, sorry my wife walked in, that's why I had to get off her. Anyway, the steering components I bought them already. What I'm running into is I may have a video on this, I may not. This was the power steering pump that came with the steering assembly that's laying here on the floor off of the V8 where I got my spindles. It all came as a complete set. And this car does not have power steering, where the one that the parts came off of here laying on the floor obviously does. So with that said, I'm going to utilize it and make power steering. Now this is technically not power steering as you would think of a GM or whatever. Ford did not use a they used a power steering pump, but they did not run it to your steering box. They actually ran it to this control valve, which I know it's dark back here, I don't have a light on, but it ran it to this control valve, which had 4 lines going to it. Basically your suction for your pump, your discharge to your pump, and then the 2 lines, short ones, that went to your slave cylinder or your steering cylinder, whatever you want to call it. That part mounts to the frame, this part mounts to your center link, and then that's how this worked, is that this thing actually shifted, you know, or actually was your power assist, I think is what they called it or something. And how this actually worked, if I'm not mistaken, I need to do a little bit more research, but as you started turning, this thing actually shifted a little bit left and right, and that's what I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's what caused the stuff to, you know, put the fluid one way or the other, and that's how it helped. No, it's just my thought on it. I've not taken it apart yet, but the problem is, even through eBay, those are like 250 bucks or more. If you go through JC Pony, they're really expensive, and these cylinders aren't terrible, but the reviews on them sucked. They all leaked after 6 months, 1 year, whatever. And so I actually bought rebuild kits for both of them. They were pretty inexpensive compared to what this cost. Also bought all 4 tie rods and adjusters. I did not replace the center link because there's nothing on it that actually moves, if that makes any sense. Everything bolts to it. So I didn't do that. I also didn't buy this rubber boot, I don't think. It looks like I'm going to have to order one because it's pretty rough shape. I did order a new idler because this one's bad. And actually that unbolts from the back side and actually pulls out of there, and then the new one slides in, I think. So this part actually does not get replaced. So if it's bad, I'll get the other part. You know, I won't know until I get it up on the table. So that's what we're doing. Here's the rest of the shocks for the rear, along with all the motor mounts, which are a pain in the butt for these. They actually use a 3-piece motor mount design on the 64.5 and early 65. This is a early 65. We'll get into that also a later date. Here's a lot of the parts off the 302 that came apart. What a mess, eh? There's the parts I've cleaned already. It's the hold downs for the lifters and stuff. I probably already have a video on that. But I wanted to give you an idea of what we were doing and why we were doing this. The leaf springs on one are out of stock, and I haven't seen them get in stock. The headers I can find, exhaust is in and out of stock. I'm having trouble finding those to a certain extent. The wheels I ordered are way out. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. I'm having trouble with them. I've actually only ordered 2 for the front because I don't have the back ones on. Without the rear axle in, I don't have an exact measure. I don't want them sticking out too far. I don't want them rubbing on something. I don't want them sticking in too far, in or out either way. So I'm going to actually have to wait till the rear end's under it. By rights, the width should be the same as this rear axle, but I don't know that for a fact yet. I have not measured it. I've not taken the wheels off this, but take measure to it. So it's just easier for me to get the rear end rebuilt, get it up underneath there with the new springs and everything, find out what the ride height's going to be, and then make my decision there on what size of wheels and tire I want to put on the back. That's where I'm at. I'm really limited on the front. JC Pony says it's best not to break a 215 60 or 14 15, whatever it is. Do not break that size or they'll start rubbing on stuff, and that's very possible. I don't know. So okay guys, so that's basically what's going to happen. This car is getting a complete mechanical rebuild again. So the next set of videos are probably going to be me working on the engine, taking it apart, and maybe cleaning it, maybe talking about it. There's probably going to be parts you're going to hear me say, the last video I did this, or you might have seen what I did before. Disregard those because I had to skip through a video, or I just couldn't get it to work right, or it just wasn't right, or whatever. So keep in mind when I start jumping around, if there's anything specific you want to see on the front suspension and stuff, I will pull these wheels. We will put the brakes on. I'll show you how to do that. When the engine is out, I'll show you how to do the master cylinder, brake booster, you know, the steering part of it, the components on it. We'll do a complete deal on it. I'll definitely do it better and right so that you get an idea of what's going on that. Basically putting a set of upper and lower yeah, A-arms and springs and stuff. That's just, there's a lot of people out there that have videos that are similar or kind of show how you do this. And if I find a good video on it, I'll put it out. But man, most everything I had, I was in the way and the camera was too high. You couldn't see anything I was doing anyway. So, all right, guys, next set of videos, 1988 302 roller engine from a Lincoln Town Car. Going to be rebuilt going in a 65 Mustang.